In the annals of the Mediterranean, where political intrigue intertwined with military ambitions, the stage was set for an unavoidable confrontation between two colossal powers. The Roman Republic, forged in the crucible of the Punic Wars and emerging triumphantly from its struggle with Carthage, had transformed from a regional power on the Apennine Peninsula into an ambitious force, spreading its influence across the entire Mediterranean. To the east rose the Seleucid Empire, led by the charismatic Antiochus III the Great, heir to vast territories once belonging to Alexander the Great, whose domains stretched from Anatolia to the very borders of India. In the geopolitical sights of both states lay Greece and Asia Minor, regions of not only strategic importance, but also rich cultural heritage and economic potential. For Rome, control over Greece was a cornerstone in securing dominance in the east and protecting its own borders from the incursions of potential adversaries. For Antiochus, possession of Greek lands meant solidifying his status as a preeminent Hellenistic ruler and extending his influence over the western territories. This confrontation transcended an ordinary military conflict. It was a struggle of strategic doctrines, imperial ambitions, and fundamentally divergent approaches to governance. At its heart was the question of who was destined to shape the future of the Mediterranean region, the nascent Roman Republic with its discipline and pragmatism, or a fading Hellenistic dynasty still clinging to the dream of reviving Alexander the Great's glory. In an era where ambitions clashed, the Roman-Syrian War, also known as the Aetolian War, became a battleground that determined not only the fate of Greece and Asia Minor, but also Rome's ascent in the east and the decline of the Hellenistic world. By the end of the 3rd century BC, Rome was no longer merely an Italian power. After decades of continuous warfare with the Etruscans, Samnites, and Gauls, the Roman Republic had united the entire Italian peninsula under its rule. However, it was the Punic Wars against Carthage that served as Rome's springboard from a regional player to a Mediterranean hegemon. The war with Carthage was a brutal ordeal that reshaped Rome. During the Second Punic War, the Republic teetered on the brink of collapse when Hannibal, leading a multinational army and war elephants, crossed the Alps. The defeats at Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and especially the devastating rout at Cannae, where tens of thousands of Roman soldiers perished in a single day, became the most tragic pages in the Republic's history. Yet, Rome possessed something that even Hannibal's genius could not break: an unyielding will to victory and an exceptional ability to recover from setbacks. Where other Greek city-states would have capitulated in the face of disaster, Rome formed new legions, refined its military tactics, and under the leadership of Publius Cornelius Scipio, later dubbed Africanus, shifted the war to the African continent, into the very heart of Carthaginian territory. The triumph at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC was not merely the final act in the confrontation with Carthage, but also marked Rome's ascent to the dominant power in the western Mediterranean. With the Carthaginian threat eliminated, Rome's gaze turned towards the eastern territories. Greece and Asia Minor attracted the Romans not only as strategically important regions, but also as centers of a rich cultural heritage. Rome positioned itself as the protector of Greece against the encroachments of Hellenistic monarchs, such as Philip V of Macedon and Antiochus III. Under the pretext of defending and liberating Greek cities from foreign rule, the Romans sought to cement their role as arbiter in the Mediterranean, steadily expanding their sphere of influence. The decisive defeat of the Macedonian army at the Battle of Cynocephalae in 197 BC demonstrated the undeniable superiority of the Roman legions over the traditional Macedonian phalanx. The next serious challenge for Rome was the confrontation with the Seleucid Empire, which represented a larger and more ambitious force than Macedon. Rome, hardened by battles, with a pragmatic approach and an army that had endured severe trials, was ready for a new phase of expansion, an open clash with Antiochus III. While the Roman Republic steadily expanded its influence eastward, another powerful state was rising in the Hellenistic world, the Seleucid Empire, which had inherited the lands conquered by Alexander the Great and was founded by Seleucus Thursor Nicator. At its peak, this empire stretched from the borders of India to Asia Minor, encompassing Mesopotamia, Syria, and much of the Levant. At its helm was Antiochus III, honored with the epithet the Great. His ascension to the throne in 223 BC was marked by a series of military campaigns designed to restore the former glory of the Seleucids, whose domains had suffered fragmentation and territorial losses in previous decades. An ambitious and energetic ruler, Antiochus sought not only to defend his lands, but also to revive the empire's Alexandrian fame. One of Antiochus's first significant victories was the Fifth Syrian War against Ptolemaic Egypt, during which he seized the strategically important region of Coele, Syria. This triumph not only strengthened his position against his Hellenistic rival, but also secured a vital communication artery between Mesopotamia and the eastern Mediterranean. However, Antiochus did not stop there. His imperial ambitions led him to cross the Hellespont in 196 BC, establish control over Thrace, and openly challenge Roman influence in Greece. This audacious, almost provocative move caused serious alarm in the Roman Senate. In the splendor of the Hellenistic world, the ambitions of Antiochus III, king of the Seleucid Empire, reached new heights, fueled by an unexpected triumph, the arrival of Hannibal Barca at his palace in Ephesus. After the fall of Carthage, this celebrated general, whose name became synonymous with unwavering resistance, found refuge with Antiochus. Hannibal's presence, not only as a symbol of hope for Rome's enemies, but also as a military advisor, lent particular weight to the Seleucid court, instilling confidence in the possibility of utilizing his unparalleled strategic talent in the impending clash with the Roman legions. However, behind the facade of Antiochus's imperial grandeur lay serious weaknesses. His vast domains were a colorful tapestry of diverse cultures, languages, and customs, making governance an extremely complex task. And while his army was a formidable force, including a fearsome Hellenistic phalanx and numerous war elephants, Antiochus was about to face an even more serious adversary, the Roman legionary machine, known for its flexibility, efficiency, and proven superiority over the Macedonian phalanx at the Battle of Cynocephalae. While Rome confidently consolidated its position, transforming into a disciplined and irresistibly growing power, Antiochus III emerged as the last powerful Hellenistic monarch ready to challenge its expansion. Antiochus's relentless ambitions inevitably led to a confrontation with the Roman Republic, a conflict that was destined to determine the future fate of East and West in the Mediterranean region. On the historical stage, where Rome and Antiochus were inevitably destined to clash, Greece found itself caught in the middle. This land, the cradle of ancient philosophy and Hellenic culture, at the period described, was a complex conglomerate of alliances, independent cities, and kingdoms, desperately trying to preserve their identity between the hammer of Rome's imperial ambitions and the anvil of the Hellenistic monarchs. After the devastating defeat of Macedon in the Second Macedonian War and the triumphant march of Roman legions at Cynocephalae in 197 BC, Rome pompously proclaimed at the Isthmian Games in Corinth that the Greeks were now granted freedom. However, this freedom soon revealed its ambiguous nature. Greece fell under the dense canopy of Roman influence, which unceremoniously interfered in its internal disputes and acted as the supreme arbiter. Such a state of affairs inevitably caused a wave of discontent among the Greek populace. Some alliances, particularly the Aetolian League, felt deceived in their expectations. Having been allies of Rome in the fight against Macedon, they discovered with bitter disappointment that Rome was behaving more like a new despot than a liberator. This growing discontent became the loophole that Antiochus III did not fail to exploit. The Aetolians, consumed by a desire to regain lost prestige and autonomy, approached Antiochus with a tempting offer to lead the fight for the liberation of Greece. They promised him comprehensive military and political support if he would act as a defender of Greek freedom from Roman domination. For Antiochus, this was truly his moment to shine. He received a unique opportunity not only to appear as a new Alexander, a patron of Greek cities, but also to directly challenge Rome's growing hegemony. In 192 BC, Antiochus landed on the Greek coast at the head of a formidable army and was welcomed by the Aetolians as a long-awaited savior. He soon captured a number of strategically important cities, including Demetrius in Thessaly, and concluded alliances with Peleus that resented Roman rule. His appearance on Greek soil detonated the conflict that went down in history as the Roman-Syrian War, or the Aetolian War. War was not long in coming, and Rome reacted immediately. The Senate ordered the mobilization of troops, placing Consul Manius Acilius Glabrio in command. To bolster the Roman army's strength, Macedonian units under Philip V and Achaean contingents were enlisted. The Roman advantage lay not only in numerical superiority, but also in stricter military discipline and a broad network of reliable allies. Antiochus, realizing the impossibility of an open confrontation with superior Roman forces, decided to occupy a strategically important and symbolic position, the Thermopylae Pass. This place, where in the distant past Leonidas and his 300 Spartans had offered heroic resistance to Xerxes' vast Persian army, was to become a new battlefield. Antiochus hoped to repeat the Spartan feat, calculating that the narrow pass would negate the enemy's numerical superiority. Theoretically, Antiochus's plan looked promising. He fortified the pass, positioned troops at key points, and relied on Aetolian support to guard the flanks. However, Antiochus's fatal error was underestimating Rome's ability to employ the same tactic the Persians had used against the Spartans. While the Seleucid king held back the legion's advance, a Roman detachment, led by local guides, executed an outflanking maneuver through the mountain trails, bypassing the Aetolian positions. The outcome of the battle was catastrophic for Antiochus. The Aetolians, caught off guard and attacked from the rear, fled in panic, leaving Antiochus's flank undefended. The Roman legions, exploiting the ensuing chaos, broke through the defenses and forced the Seleucid king to retreat. The Battle of Thermopylae, which occurred in April 194 BC, was not only a military defeat, but also a severe moral blow for Antiochus. His image as the liberator of Greece was shattered. The Greeks, who had previously welcomed him as a savior, began to lose faith in him, while Rome solidified its authority as a guarantor of stability in the region. After this crushing defeat, Antiochus was forced to leave Greece and retreat to Asia Minor. The war for Greece transformed into a strategic confrontation for dominance over the Aegean Sea and Asia Minor, territories crucial for the future of the Seleucid Empire. After the defeat at Thermopylae, Antiochus III retreated to Asia Minor, seeking to reorganize his troops and halt the impending Roman advance. However, it soon became clear that land fortifications alone would not secure victory. Control of the Aegean Sea became a key factor in the war. The Aegean, like a circulatory system, connected Greece, Asia Minor, and strategically important islands in the eastern Mediterranean. To solidify his position, Antiochus needed to ensure uninterrupted sea supply for his army and prevent the Roman fleet from combining with those of Rhodes and Pergamum, traditional adversaries of the Seleucids. Antiochus, believing in the possibility of naval dominance, reinforced his fleet at Ephesus and entrusted command to Hannibal Barca, the outstanding Carthaginian strategist whose military talents had made Rome tremble during the Second Punic War. Despite his genius, Hannibal's sea experience was limited. He was a master of land battles, but lacked experience as an admiral. Antiochus's hopes were dashed in 191 BC at the Battle of Carrhaetus, where the Seleucid fleet was defeated by the Rhodians and Pergamese. Rhodian sailors, known for their maneuverability and speed, triumphed over the heavier Seleucid vessels, demonstrating that dominance in the Aegean Sea was shifting to Rome. But fate decreed otherwise. A year later, in 190 BC, Hannibal suffered a crushing defeat in the naval battle of Eurymedon, where Rhodian sailors virtually annihilated his fleet. An additional blow came at the Battle of Meonosus, in which the combined forces of Rome and Rhodes inflicted a final defeat on the Seleucid fleet. It became evident that the Aegean Sea had fallen completely under Roman control, depriving Antiochus of the ability to transfer troops, defend the Asia Minor coast, and support his garrisons in Greece. The sea, which was meant to serve as a bridge for the spread of Seleucid influence, transformed into an insurmountable wall, cutting him off from allies and resources. This strategic setback marked a turning point in the war. Without a strong fleet, Antiochus III was forced to resort to land defense in Asia Minor. Rome, conversely, gained the ability to move its troops and supplies unhindered, creating the conditions for the decisive Battle of Magnesia. After the establishment of naval supremacy by Rome and its allies, Antiochus III was compelled to concentrate all his forces on the defense of Asia Minor, preparing for the inevitable invasion. Despite all efforts to reorganize the army and strengthen defensive lines, his strategic position remained highly disadvantageous. The absence of a powerful fleet and the increasing pressure from Roman legions forced the Seleucid king to make crucial decisions that could determine the outcome of the entire war. In an effort to halt the advance of the Roman legions, Antiochus III opted for Magnesia ad Sipylum, a city with a rich past, holding an important place in Seleucid history. This location seemed to him a suitable arena for a decisive battle, where his army could attempt to contain the Roman advance. Antiochus hoped that the terrain would play to his advantage, creating favorable conditions for confronting the forces led by Lucius Cornelius Scipio, a general renowned for his strategic talents and ability to adapt to changing battlefield circumstances. Aware of the immense complexity of the task ahead, Antiochus devised a plan to strengthen his army and prepare defensive lines, which was designed to leverage his numerical superiority. While the Roman army numbered approximately 30,000 soldiers, the Seleucid force was significantly larger, by various estimates, between 50,000 and 72,000 men. This numerical advantage prompted Antiochus to stake his hopes on a frontal assault, for which the army was divided into three main parts. The left wing, led by Callias, comprised 22,200 soldiers, including light and heavy infantry, archers, slingers, cavalry, and a formidable number of war elephants. The center, under the command of Philip of Macedon, formed a dense line of Macedonian phalanx, consisting of 16,000 heavy infantry, reinforced by 3,000 additional soldiers and 20 elephants. This formation was the core of his army and a central element of his entire strategy. The right wing, under the direct command of Antiochus III, numbered 24,700 men, including cataphracts, the royal guard, archers, light infantry, and 16 reserve elephants. General Antiochus hoped that such a distribution of troops would effectively contain the Roman advance, gradually wearing down their battle formations. He attached particular importance to the war elephants, considering them the main weapon capable of breaking through Roman ranks and inflicting a crushing blow on the enemy's infantry. Roman strategy was built upon experience accumulated in numerous battles. Lucius Cornelius Scipio, leading the Roman forces, was aware of the Seleucid army's numerical superiority, but remained confident of victory. The Roman manipular legion tactic was characterized by flexibility and adaptability. Unlike the rigid Macedonian phalanxes, Roman legions were divided into maniples, small mobile units capable of reacting swiftly to changes in battlefield conditions. Scipio also held a significant advantage in cavalry, numbering around 6,000 horsemen. Roman cavalry was prepared to outflank the Seleucid army, weaken the phalanx's resistance, and open the way for the infantry's advance. To counter Antiochus's elephants, the Romans deployed their own African elephants, positioning them at key points. However, their number was significantly smaller than the enemy's, only 16 against 54 elephants. The Roman superiority in maneuverability and unit mobility became their main trump card in the upcoming battle. The landscape on which the battle unfolded played a decisive role in its outcome. Magnesia, located 15 kilometers northeast of Sardis, presented a relatively open territory, yet with strategically important sections. These sections allowed the Romans to effectively utilize their tactical flexibility, creating dispersed battle formations. Antiochus III, like other generals of that era, anticipated that the terrain would give him an advantage, allowing heavy units such as elephants and phalanxes to break through Roman lines. However, Antiochus failed to fully anticipate the Roman force's ability to adapt to the terrain and maneuver quickly, repelling attacks. The anticipation of battle created a heavy atmosphere for both armies, who were aware of the enormous responsibility for the outcome of the clash, which was to determine control over the eastern Mediterranean and the future fate of the Seleucid Empire. Defeat would mean not only the collapse of Antiochus III's plans, but also the beginning of Roman expansion into Asia Minor and ultimately into the very heart of the Seleucid domain. On the 17th of December 190 BC, on the plains near Magnesia ad Sipylum, the fate of the Seleucid kingdom and the future of the Roman Republic were decided. The Roman army, numbering approximately 30,000 soldiers, engaged a coalition consisting of over 50,000 soldiers of the Seleucid Empire under the command of Antiochus III. This battle became the culmination of the confrontation, defining Roman dominance in the eastern Mediterranean and marking the end of Seleucid expansion to the west. The military confrontation commenced with a series of exhaustive maneuvers as both armies sought to secure the most advantageous positions. Antiochus III, confident in his numerical superiority and the formidable strength of his heavy infantry, pursued a tactic of massive frontal assault. At the heart of his formation was the Macedonian phalanx, a pivotal element of his military strategy. The phalangites, armed with their long sarissa spears, were intended to form an impregnable wall, capable of halting any enemy advance. However, the Romans' decisive advantage lay in their superior maneuverability and the mobility of their units. The terrain chosen for the battle played a crucial role in this. Magnesia, situated approximately 15 kilometers northeast of Sardis, presented a relatively open landscape, yet it featured strategic points that allowed the Romans to exploit their flexibility and deploy dispersed battle formations. Antiochus III, like many commanders of that era, expected the terrain to grant him an advantage, enabling heavy troops such as elephants and phalanxes to breach the Roman lines. Nevertheless, Antiochus failed to fully appreciate the Romans' capacity to adapt to the ground and to maneuver swiftly to counterattacks. Tension hung heavy in the air, heralding the impending battle which was set to be the culmination of the rivalry between two great powers. The opposing armies understood that the outcome of this engagement would determine not only the fate of the eastern Mediterranean, but also the future of the Seleucid Empire. For Antiochus III, defeat would signify the collapse of his ambitions and the commencement of Rome's relentless expansion deep into Asia Minor, foreshadowing the decline of his empire. On 17th of December 193 BC, on the plains of Magnesia near Sipylus, a dramatic confrontation unfolded, deciding the destiny of the Seleucid kingdom and the future of the Roman Republic. A Roman army of approximately 30,000 soldiers challenged a coalition comprising over 50,000 Seleucid troops, led by Antiochus III. This battle was destined to be a turning point, establishing Roman dominance in the eastern Mediterranean and bringing an end to the Seleucids' westward expansion. The battle began with a series of grueling maneuvers as both armies occupied favorable positions on the battlefield. Antiochus III, relying on his numerical superiority and the might of his heavy infantry, arrayed his forces in a massive frontal line, with the Macedonian phalanx playing a central role. These formidable formations, composed of soldiers armed with long sarissa spears, presented an impenetrable wall, capable of halting any enemy advance. Rome's triumph at the Battle of Magnesia and the subsequent signing of the peace treaty opened a new chapter in Mediterranean history. The Treaty of Apamea not only cemented Antiochus III's crushing defeat, but also served as a springboard for the spread of Roman influence into Asia Minor, foreshadowing future conquests to the east. Rome, having already established its supremacy in the western Mediterranean basin, now confidently asserted itself in the east. This victory strengthened its position in Greece and Asia Minor, where Rome already had loyal allies such as Pergamum and Rhodes. With the decline of the Seleucid Empire, Rome emerged as the undisputed leader across the entire region. This treaty had far-reaching cultural and social consequences. As Roman influence solidified, Greek cities gradually softened their hostility towards the Roman presence, and some, such as Athens, began to view Rome as their protector against the encroachments of other powers. The cultural exchange between ancient Greek civilization and the ascendant Roman power became an irreversible process, with Roman culture actively adopting many Greek traditions that endured for centuries. The Treaty of Apamea ushered in a new era in the geopolitical landscape of the Eastern Mediterranean, where Rome not only expanded its territories, but also cemented its status as a pivotal player. The loss of influence for the Seleucid dynasty, however, did not bring an end to the era of conflicts between Rome and the Hellenistic states. In the long term, Rome's interests in Asia Minor and Greece became the arena for new disputes, which in turn led to a chain of military confrontations, such as the Macedonian and Syrian wars. These conflicts only served to strengthen Rome's position in the region, establishing it as the hegemon. Following its triumph at the Battle of Magnesia and the conclusion of the Treaty of Apamea, Rome asserted itself as the leading power in the Mediterranean, particularly in the east, where the weakening of the Seleucid Empire created conditions for expansion and a realignment of alliances. The decline of the Seleucids marked a turning point not only for the Hellenistic territories, but also for Rome's relations with the Greek city-states and Asia Minor. Thus, Rome assumed a dominant position in the region, fundamentally altering the balance of power in the eastern Mediterranean. After the defeat of Antiochus III, the Great, in the war with the Roman Republic, the Seleucid Empire faced a period of significant decline. The harsh terms of the peace treaty imposed by the Romans undermined the state's economic power and restricted its military potential. The enormous indemnities that the empire was obliged to pay Rome depleted the treasury and caused severe economic difficulties. Furthermore, Antiochus III encountered internal unrest as popular discontent with the economic hardships caused by the treaty grew, and difficulties in fulfilling the compensation terms led to revolts and challenges to his authority. Antiochus III died in 187 BC during a clash with Parthian forces, never having managed to restore his empire's former glory. Despite Rome's victory over Antiochus III and the expulsion of the Seleucid Empire from Asia Minor, a complex task remained, settling relations with the Greek city-states. Contrary to expectations, the Greek poleis were not immediately incorporated into the Roman Republic. Instead of direct annexation of Greece, Rome chose a strategy of protectorate, forging alliances with key cities and Greek leagues. Rome became the guarantor of the Greek city's security, acting as a deterrent against the ambitions of other rivals, such as the Kingdom of Macedon. This policy of alliances became an important element of Roman expansion, as it not only strengthened ties with the Greek cities, but also prevented potential internal conflicts during a period when Rome had not yet fully consolidated its power in the region. Nevertheless, this strategy was not without tension. Despite Rome positioning itself as a benevolent power, Greek cities felt their autonomy curtailed. Many perceived Roman intervention as a form of control, disguised under the guise of protection. For instance, the Achaean League, a confederation of Greek cities, began to show signs of discontent with Rome's growing influence. Rome, in turn, made concessions in some demands, but also established a system of direct control over the internal politics of several cities. After the collapse of the Seleucid Empire, Rome's gaze turned westward, where the ambitious designs of the Macedonian kings still posed a hidden threat to its influence in Greece. In 197 BC, Roman legions achieved a triumphant victory over Philip V of Macedon in the bloody Battle of Cynocephalae. This victory not only marked the final defeat of Macedonia as an independent state in the region, but also heralded the beginning of an era of undisputed Roman dominance in Greece. Rome did not merely guarantee the independence of the Greek city-states, but also placed Macedonia under its guardianship, establishing a protectorate instead of direct annexation. This triumph was decisive, as it solidified Rome's role as the guarantor of peace and stability in the region, significantly strengthening its influence over Greek institutions and public life. As Rome extended its power into the eastern territories, Greek cities gradually underwent cultural assimilation, experiencing ever-increasing Roman influence. However, Roman expansion did not stop there. In Asia Minor, Rome continued to steadily expand its possessions, annexing new territories. After the fall of the Seleucids, the Kingdom of Pergamum became a key Roman ally, ensuring relative stability in Asia Minor. The Treaty of Apamea unequivocally demonstrated that Rome was becoming the new dominant power in the region, and the alliance with Pergamum laid a strong foundation for future Roman expansion eastward. Despite the alliances forged and the protection offered by the Roman Republic to numerous Greek city-states, a shadow of mistrust towards Roman rule continued to cloud relations. Some city-states, notably Sparta and Corinth, rose in rebellion against the restrictions imposed by Rome, yet their attempts at resistance were swiftly suppressed. In many cases, Greek cities harbored hopes of regaining the autonomy lost with Rome's increasing influence. An example of the escalating internal tension can be seen in Athens, where a group of democratic leaders rebelled against Roman control, striving to reclaim their independence. Rome responded with sanctions and punishments, but also demonstrated flexibility, allowing many Greek cities to retain their political systems, albeit under Rome's vigilant supervision. Following its triumph in the Roman Seleucid War, Rome began to consolidate its dominion over Asia Minor. Coastal cities such as Ephesus and Smyrna became loyal allies or client states of Rome, enabling the Roman Republic to establish control over key ports and trade routes of the East. As the Roman presence in Asia Minor strengthened, Rome also established political and economic control over this wealthy region. Through strategic alliances and political influence, Rome expanded its territories to include what was destined to become a key part of its empire. This eastern expansion had a significant cultural impact. As Rome advanced, Greek and Hellenistic influences began to permeate Roman culture, creating a unique Roman Hellenistic world. In 188 BC, following the crushing defeat of the Seleucid Empire at the Battle of Magnesia, the Treaty of Apamea was concluded, formally marking the end of the Roman-Seleucid War. This treaty was a triumph for Rome and a turning point in the history of the Eastern Mediterranean. The Treaty of Apamea not only confirmed Antiochus III's military defeat and the decline of the Seleucid Empire, but also led to a redrawing of the region's geopolitical map. According to the stringent terms of the treaty, Antiochus III forfeited all possessions west of the Taurus Mountains, including Asia Minor and a significant portion of the Aegean coast. Furthermore, a colossal indemnity of 15,000 talents was imposed on Antiochus III, payable over 12 years, severely exacerbating the empire's already precarious economic situation. Restrictions were also placed on the Seleucid fleet, reducing its size to 10 ships, which gravely curtailed the empire's capabilities in the Mediterranean Sea. As part of the agreement, Rome solidified its position in Asia Minor, guaranteeing the independence of its allied cities and extending its influence across the entire region. Cities such as Pergamum, staunch allies of Rome, received portions of the territories ceded by the Seleucids, while other regions of the Asian coast came under Rome's implicit control. This treaty initiated Roman expansion eastward, laying the groundwork for its subsequent centuries of regional dominance. The treaty also marked the end of the Seleucid Empire as a significant force in the ancient world. Although smaller kingdoms continued to exist in the region, they never managed to regain their former strength and unity. Rome, in turn, used this victory to establish its hegemony in the eastern Mediterranean and continue its conquest of Greece and other strategically important territories. The war between Rome and the Seleucid Empire, along with the subsequent Treaty of Apamea, proved a pivotal moment in the annals of the eastern Mediterranean. The defeat of the Seleucid army and the strengthening of Roman influence led to Rome not merely solidifying its position in the region, but fundamentally altering the balance of power on the world stage, with the Roman Republic gradually asserting itself as the leading power of antiquity. This military conflict, though often overshadowed by more renowned events such as the Punic Wars, nonetheless played a decisive role in Rome's territorial expansion and the transformation of the Mediterranean world, paving the way for the establishment of the Pax Romana.